Welcome to the ESR Racers Corner. For the second time ever, we actually have a webcam guest in the form of one of two second generation racers in the ESR community, the little Higgs, Matt Higgs.
The one and only, of course.
The only man to mess up a formation lap in
And
ESR.
leading a race twice.
Yeah, I mean, we've been.
I crashed at Kyalami leading in the Sunday series, and I crashed leading at Suzuka.
Yeah, you keep throwing wins away. That's how you do this.
Yeah, it was sort of still salty.
So Lil Higgs here is platinum gold rated driver within ESR, depending on the particular point of reference, because you're kind of like hovering on the line. If you have a good day, it goes platinum. If you have a bad day, it goes gold.
Really, never. That's news to me.
That's what you're classified as. You can always look at your rating on Discord because you're classified by it.
That just says I'm platinum rated.
Yeah, but you've been gold rated a couple of times as well. I tend to. I don't upgrade. I don't update it on an event by event basis. I tend to update it at the end of a series as opposed to that because there. And if you enjoy the background, this is Higgs' choice. He wanted the DB9 for his background.
I first thing that came to mind, of course.
Indeed, he's an Aston Martin fan. Although you don't race the Aston Martin, you race Porsches and Lamborghinis predominantly.
Yeah, I don't like the Aston Martin in the game. I have driven the V8 Vantage, but
what do you not like about it? I guess that's where we should probably start because that's a bit of a hot take within ESR.
I feel like it's too tight. It doesn't like rotate enough to me, and sometimes I just like something more pointy and rotates well. Oh,
so you're a mid-engine kind of guy then, or rear engine.
Yeah, more so Lambo than Lamborghini, or not Lambo. Lambo than Audi, because I feel like the Audi is kind of understeery to me. Well, at least it was a Misano.
I mean, admittedly, the difference between the Audi and the Lamborghini is kind of weird because on paper they're supposed to be very, very similar cars, but then they really aren't. Because I don't like the Lambo, but I do like the Audi, so go figure.
Yeah, to each your own, I guess.
I mean, I don't hate the Lamborghini, but it's.
You prefer the Audi.
It's on the lower end of my rankings as far as ACC is concerned, anyways. And we don't have it in race room, so I have no comparison to work with there.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I generally avoid the Lamborghini in Assetto Corsa AC, the original Assetto Corsa. Ironically,
it's the old Lambo.
The Lamborghini Diablo is actually what inspired my love of cars, so it's a bit weird that I have gravitated away from the Lamborghinis after getting serious into motorsport. So let's get into yours. Tell us about your tale into motorsport or sim racing if you're one of those weird people who does sim racing and doesn't care for actual motorsport.
Well, I used to be into NASCAR when I was little. Well, I first went to most sport in 2007, 2008 because I had this memory of walking through the pits and seeing the yellow Penske Porsches and the Audi R10s. And I also have a memory from that trip of getting invited into the Aston Martin garage area, and one of the mechanics gave me a gear from the car. I still have that gear upstairs.
I assume you won from the transmission or different gear from the car.
It's about that tall, so I'm guessing it's transmission.
It seems like there are of course other gears within the car, but they'd be larger. Like differential gears and stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's that. So, any motorsports heroes, particular cars that inspired you, series that you follow on a religious level?
Well, I follow IMSA. I follow GT World Challenge, Europe, America. I follow ADAC GT Masters a little bit. British GT. Well, I kind of group British GT and GT World Challenge in the same vein.
Series, yeah.
Yeah. Also follow the N24, the NLS series in Germany.
Can never get into that one myself, but whatever floats one's boat. I noticed
Yeah,
you didn't mention F1 first off, which is
I, I,
strange.
I do watch F1. I've been sort of getting more into it in the past year and a half. I've been watching more races because I don't usually have a chance to watch them because they're usually at odd times.
I mean,
Either
that's why you just
su-
don't watch them live. I mean, I don't watch F1 live. I watch it afterwards. I just have to avoid spoilers in the lead up to my watching.
yeah, the one in Bahrain wasn't that. It was kind of at like 11:30 a.m., so it wasn't that hard to watch
Yeah,
live.
yeah, a couple of them are not too difficult. Honestly, I mean, I used to watch them live. I'd get up super early on a Sunday and watch them with my dad. Father son bonding time. This would have been back in the early 2000s, late 90s, which admittedly was a better time for F1, I think, but some people would
Yeah, it
say
was more
otherwise.
popular then, I think.
Well, I think honestly, it's probably at its most popular point now in terms of just raw number of people watching. It's just
Probably because of
I
Drive to Survive.
that does help, and obviously there's a lot more to get into drivers now with social media presence and video games and so on that
Like the
wasn't
guys that are
there.
streaming and stuff.
Yeah, that wasn't there. Like I mean, in the late '90s, my two favorite drivers were Jacques Villeneuve and Heinz Harald Frentzen, and Villeneuve, it was just shared Canadian nationality, and Frentzen, I liked his name. That was like it. That was the rationale, and then of course he raced for the Jordans, who I always cheered for because, I mean,
Yellow cars.
it's not even the yellow cars. I mean, although the yellow car does help anytime you have a car that stands out in the grid, because F1 tends to have like a monotone every year. The color changes, like it's been blue or it's been gray or whatever.
Unless it's Ferrari.
Well, yeah, there's always somebody who stands out, but like
Yeah, like the McLarens of
yeah,
recent of like the past like 15 years.
yeah, like probably not quite 15. I think they were using the West
No, they were using the
Mercedes
West
heavily.
until like 2005, and then
Mm.
2006 they went like yellow or not yellow, chrome and red till like 2013.
Well, no, they kept kind of the West McLaren colors for a little bit, even into the Honda era where they were doing the silver and the black
Yeah,
color, which kind of blended in.
which
But
is kind
like,
of ironic because I believe Ron Dennis was quoted saying, "Oh, we're not getting rid of the silver because of the lack of Mercedes." In like 2015, he's like, "Oh, we're just going to go over this because it's more." He kind of deflected because they broke up with Mercedes.
mhm. Which I mean was the right idea at the time. I've always said this that like the Honda experiment failed, but it was the right idea going into it because as long as you were sticking with Mercedes power, you were not going to outpace the factory team.
No,
So
you're going to be like kind of second fiddle,
yeah,
basically.
if you're a McLaren and you have that pedigree and you're expecting to go for championships at some point, you have to find a different path. And Honda
They've
was the only way to go.
characteristically used customer engines or basically been like factory teams throughout their like whole life. It's not like that they've never actually built their own engine. If I can think off the top of my head.
They have never built their own engine, but their success obviously would be it Ford. I guess Ford they were a customer, but they were the factory team for Honda when they were successful. Mercedes when they were successful. The only exception would be
Renault.
racing.
No. Were they Renault?
I think Renault is they were just Renault, but they weren't the factory team. Although that was of course weird because they outpaced the factory team. Um, Cyril, you suck.
Yeah, irony. And then I don't know if you watched Drive to Survive season 3 yet.
Mm-hmm.
When he threw a fit when Daniel switched to McLaren.
Yeah, I've never understood Cyril Beatable's career. He seems to be an abrasive personality. He's never had great results, all things considered. There's no championship pedigree. He doesn't have a Ross Braun or a
Ron Dennis.
or Martin Whitmarsh or anything like that. There's nothing. There's nothing really there. So I've never really understood why he still is at the head of the Alpine
Nope.
program
Nope.
now.
He get fired? Like he got fired like before the season, I think.
Did he? I mean, I'm surprised I missed that because I would have been jumping for joy. Um,
I believe he got
could be, Could be. All
Anyway,
right.
I think so.
So we've covered kind of the F1 obligatory stuff that always comes up. We've covered your love of GT racing, predominantly. Anything more deep than that, or is there, I don't know, motorcycles, supercars, NASCAR, whatever the case may be?
When I was young, I used to be really into NASCAR. Like, played all like the NASCAR like games, like NASCAR '09, and I had 164 scale NASCAR cars. And my dad still has a bunch of NASCAR memorabilia, like signed cars and stuff from when they went to, I don't know if you remember NASCAR Speed Park
I do.
in Vaughan.
I do.
Used to go there a lot. I used to be a fan of Casey Kane back in there when he was in like the 9.
The good old 9 car. What team was that? That was the Haas team, wasn't it?
No, I don't think it was Haas. It was, I forget what team. He was like teammates like Elliott Sadler in the 19.
Yeah, I can picture the car in my head, but the team is not coming to mind, which is a bit weird.
I'll remember it like tonight when I'm going to bed. I'm like,
probably.
There it is.
So there's that. And then, of course, let's talk about the sim racing. What drew you to sim racing? Of course, your dad's into sim racing.
Yeah, I used to. I grew up playing Forza on Xbox, and like Rally Sport on the original Xbox. I think it was it was Forza Motorsport, and I remember the rally game on the original Xbox, like Rally Sport Challenge or something like that. And then kind of played Forza up until, I guess, 6 years ago, 5-6 years ago, and I showed my dad the video of this guy, like called Digipross, on a YouTube channel, and he was like, he had like a full simulator going, and my dad's like, "Oh my god, that's amazing!" And then my dad got into it, and then like we found an Obuto Revolution for sale on Kijiji, and snatched that up, and the same guy was selling his PC at the time as well, so we bought that as well. So we had like two 770s at the time, GTX, and I just gradually got into. I started off with Project Cars 1 because that was like really big at the time, and
I do remember being very disappointed with that too.
yeah, I didn't really have anything to kind of compare it to, and then I got into Assetto Corsa, like the first one, and I played that for a few years with like the Sim Sport Racing League in Britain. I don't know how. I think I came across them on Facebook, and then I played with them for a few years, and then my dad found you guys, and then I gradually followed him, and then basically been enjoying it ever since. And that's my plan of when I move out again, to buy my own rig and be able to race myself.
I will actually have a rig up for sale soon because my DIY rig is heading out. I'm getting myself something proper.
A next level.
Mm-hmm. That's the one.
I don't know. It kind of looks flimsy from the photographs.
Stop Mill says that it does the job, and I've watched a couple of video reviews. They say there's very little flex, so we'll see. I may end up completely regretting it. I don't know.
But, I'm aiming for a 80/20, like a SimLab GT1 Evo.
I haven't really looked a lot at the sim rigs myself. That's one element that just financially,
there's so many.
Space wise, it's always been hard. That's why I did the DIY with my cousin, of course.
In my apartment up north, I have a spot already marked out, or spot already chosen for the simulator to go when I got it.
Got the caution tape up around it. This is the
no caution tape. Just when I was looking, I basically had to like kind of buy it or look at it before I got there because I was going for a job, so I didn't really have a chance to like look around. And I kind of just was like, okay, the couch can go here, TV go there, sim rig there, bed over there. It's kind of a bachelor, so it's not terribly roomy, but more than enough room for one person.
Hey, we're not going to talk about roomy when you're talking to a guy who lives in a room. So, so give me a break.
Yeah, I'll
Right.
give you it.
So you've been competing in the GT Challenge series, and been doing well, but have had a
Still
tendency
have
to fumble
mistakes.
hard, that we talked about before. And you're finally going to mount a 3D speed challenge next season. So, what car are you going to bring to the table for that one?
I haven't decided. I've been talking about wanting to choose the Porsche, but it all depends on my final decision because I'm comfortable in the Lambo, but the Porsche is just it's that allure of
I
being good
see.
at tracks and some are being bad at some others. Like I took it around Bathurst. That's one track that I'm always nervous about driving in the Porsche because I tried it once. I did one lap and I crashed on my lap, and I'm like, nope.
That will do it. But I mean, that's also Bathurst. You're going to crash learning Bathurst at some point. I know that I know that Rochelle's been trying to get the Nissan 15 to behave around there with
Ooh,
minimal success.
it's very tricky. It's kind of a base. It doesn't offer a good base to like. You have to kind of tune it to be able to drive it right. It's not like you can try to kind of start off something.
Yeah, I think some of the older cars suffer from that a little bit in general.
I used to
They've not
drive the
been
old Audi.
they've not been maintained as well as they probably should.
Apparently, they're not too bad on the new tire model. I haven't driven them since the new cars came out. I've been strictly new cars
That's
since
good.
like they came out last 2 years ago.
I mean,
No,
that's
like one
always
and a
where
bit.
that's always where the meta is going to drive, at least with a set of course competition, because it's based in real life,
Yeah,
as opposed to something like Racer Room, which can do whatever BOP it wants.
yeah. Racer Room is kind of a. I kind of tried Racer Room. It's not my cup of tea. Everything just feels sort of not cartoony, but just feels off.
I mean, I think it's always going to be a low end immersion feel to it, just because I mean it is a free to play with pick your content. I mean, I've said this every sim has its pluses and its negatives, and it's going to depend driver to driver what they like. Um,
Yeah, I was talking to Daniel Murad. I don't know if you know him, but I was
Daniel
talking to him.
Rad.
Yeah, my dad has a sort of mixed opinion on him, but I was I was talking to him because he was finally racing ACC. I noticed like the RCI or SimGrid 12 Hours Bathurst with some other sim like esports and like real life drivers. And he was like, I commented on his like Instagram story. I was like, oh, he's finally driving ACC because he's always been like an iRacing guy.
Man,
And
that's where the endorsements have been.
yeah, all right. I'm not too into iRacing. I tried the Lambo. Like Dad signed us up for like the 24 hours of Daytona. We're gonna do like a few hours each just to see what it was gonna be like because I'd never really driven iRacing. We chose Lambo because yeah, we drive it in others in ACC, so try it in that. And I was only like a second off my dad, which wasn't totally bad for not being experienced or having driven that sim at all. And it just felt sort of It didn't feel like you could feel the back end at all. So
I
it's
have I have stayed away from iRacing, um, not because of any thoughts of like it being a bad game or being unenjoyable, but just because um, if I get into like a subscription based something, it's going to completely wipe out any other game, and that's going to lead to not being able to race with everyone that I want to race with. Because
yeah, it makes sense because you want to get your money's worth and don't want to feel like you're just paying for something you're not going to drive or whatever.
absolutely, and I'm an accountant, so we can't have that.
And I used to drive when I first started ACC. I was driving the Bentley when I first started, just because I was like, oh, it's a safe car and doesn't really do anything you don't want it to do.
I
So
mean, I didn't really find it to be that safe. It's also the car I was driving first. Not really based on choice, but just
No,
because Stop Mill was willing to tag me along for a season and be my
it
partner.
wasn't the old Bentley. It was the new. It was the newer Bentley, like the 2018 Bentley that I was driving.
It was for it was the newer. I think it was the newer one for us.
Yeah, I think so because that's when I first started driving with ESR when I was doing that, and then like you were in the Bentley when I first started ESR, I think. I still remember my first race. It was at Spa in the rain.
Oh God, I remember that race. I was off the track the whole time, basically.
Yeah, I remember.
The Bentley would not settle through Blanchiment every lap.
Yeah, that's where Stoffmill crashed.
Yeah,
And
so that at least made me feel better that at least part of it was the car.
and I remember my dad was hyping up Stoffmill before I started racing. He's like, "Oh, this guy's super quick and super fast and everything." And I'm like, and then I remember he's like, "Oh my God, he crashed."
He does not do that very often. That's
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
It's a stunning thing. He's the complete package in terms of pace, reliability, and consistency, and craft.
Yep, that for sure.
Mm-hmm. So you're pondering the Porsche 3D Speed. Are you entering in the GT4 World Tour that starts tomorrow? What are you doing?
I'm teamed up with Mika and Cole in the 570S. We tested a lot of cars at Spa, and my fastest one was the McLaren. And then my next...
I did absolutely no testing for the GT4 challenge. I looked at what car wasn't on the grid and picked that. So,
did you pick the Alpine or the Ginetta or the Maserati?
The Audi.
Yeah, we tried the Audi. It wasn't that bad, but
I
tried the Porsche.
I remember being distinctly unimpressed with the Audi when I was doing the GT4 class breakdown when they came out for ESR. I remember ranking it like the 9th best car in the group. I could refer to the video, I guess, to remember. But I was clearing up my racing worksheet, which had the numbers on it. Still, I'm pretty sure it was down in 9th place. So, not predicting great things, but hey, if I'm gonna bring the Audi Revolution to ESR and end our anti-Audi ways,
yeah, there's been no Audis in it. Well, there's been a few in 3D Speed, but there's been none in the Sunday Series. I think the only one is Josiah Jerome.
There was like Mark Dieters, and then of course there's RC, but she's part of the Revolution.
Oh yeah, so. Yeah, true. I forgot about her in the Sunday Series. Like those Academy drivers start off strong in the Sunday Series at Zandvoort. They were qualified. I think she was just qualified. I qualified like something like 10th at Zandvoort.
She's been doing really well all season. I think she's finished top 10 in all but one race.
Yeah, she has that consistency down for sure.
She's been greatly amused by the continuation of finishing her rugby number in 9th place.
Well, she is South African, so they're big fans of rugby down there.
Well, she plays rugby. She played rugby for a college team as well. For those unaware, rugby players, your position is determined by number. So there's actually, unlike other sports, everyone who starts at a position will wear the same number. Like number 1 is the prop, number 9 in her case is the scrum half. So she's been amused that she's finished like 9th 4 times, I think, on the season. So that's been funny.
Yeah, I'm lucky. I've only crashed out of a few races and finished poorly in them. I finished poorly at Laguna because I crashed and I got a penalty. And then a few laps later, I only had a little bit of damage, so I was like continuing to my pit stop. And then there was this scrum with 4 cars that crashed between turns 4 and 5, I want to say.
That's a bit of a weird place to get a pileup going.
It's that, the first... It's first...
And then Andretti's 2, then 3, 4...
Oh yeah, it was 4 and 5.
So like the straightaway leading up to the slightly uphill
yeah.
left-hander? That's a bit of a weird place to get a pileup.
There were like 3 or 4 cars that went off on the right-hand side, then one guy did not hold his brakes at all and just rolled across the track. And I tried to avoid him, he just hit me like into the wall, and I was just like, no, dude, your brakes, hold the brakes.
Yeah, there's probably probably one of the areas that needs improvement within the ESR community, but also sim racing in general is
I
the
think,
after crash behavior.
yeah, I think
Just not a strong point.
most people are just kind of trying to use that momentum from the car rolling back to spin it around to keep going or whatever.
hmm
That's really the only thing, or just the, oh no, I got in an accident, and not being able to think about the brakes.
Yeah, focusing on the accident as what happened, as opposed to what can I do to safely rejoin the track and handle that. So there's definitely, I think, some of that going on.
It's not really something you can practice unless you
I
actually
mean,
try to.
you could practice anything for being honest, but it's completely different when you're trying to crash and recover, because then your mind is focused on the recovery, which is not going to be there in an actual live fire scenario, basically.
Yeah, it makes sense. I guess kind of hard to practice if
It'd be
it's.
nice. It'd be nice if we should. I should probably focus on getting some videos up for that, because we did our first charter video. By we, I mean I did. Our first charter video, courtesy of the Academy people, who had the oddity of one car punting another car at the same corner they later got passed at. So it's kind of seldom you get to do that kind of juxtaposition of like side by side. This is how it's supposed to look. This is how it's not supposed to look. So probably need to do something about rejoins, because I know I heard from some people that Suzuka in the Sunday series had some bad rejoins. Wasn't there myself, so I can't really comment.
Yeah, there was a few that I could hear that I heard on comms, people not very pleased about, or complaining about other people doing, saying like, "Oh, what are you doing there? You can't rejoin like that."
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be a tremendous amount of thought. It was at Kyle Almy, one of the cars rejoined ahead of me right at the apex, and that was like, oh no, getting around it.
Yeah, it's kind of
Um,
got to like avoiding action there.
yeah, a little bit. Still, ended up with a bizarrely good result over at Kyle Almy. I don't even know where that came from.
It's entertaining to watch these videos like ACC Twitch fails and stuff like that of people complaining and or getting crashed wherever in ACC. And I watch it with my dad, and it's kind of like there's just one guy that we both hate. He always blames it on the other car, no matter what. And what I noticed with all these guys is if they giving room is something that's alien to them. Like they just expect once they get alongside the cars, the guy to like back off or whatever, but then the guy fights it, and then they turn it on and they go, "What the fuck, man?" or something,
Yeah,
and it's like,
I think that's the natural like gamer mix with racer reaction. Even to a degree in certain real life motorsports where there's no self reflection in a moment. Like Sebastian Vettel's always got the best one to me after running into Lewis Hamilton under safety car conditions.
oh, when they went like that, Baku.
Yes, and getting a drive-through penalty. It's like, Sebastian, you have a drive-through penalty for dangerous driving. When did I dangerously drive? I don't know. When you hit the guy under safety car, like that probably is the answer.
Yeah, it's it's always funnier when they get it on camera, like they're like streaming it, and there's like, oh, this guy is, and then it's always kind of like, dude, you're an idiot. You didn't give him room, or you turned in on the guy,
Or
and you expect.
yeah, or it's like a 50-50 situation, like at best, where it's like probably neither of probably neither of you are behaving 100% appropriately for the situation.
Like you could have done this to avoid it. He could have done this to avoid it. It's not like one guy just blatantly took you off the track
Now,
on purpose.
they might have, because I've been doing the onboards a lot more lately, and sometimes it'll be like, to use Kyle Almy's example. I gave Dave Nelson a punt that live, I think I was saying was not a penalty, but then watching the replay, it's like, no, I had no overlap, no nothing. I had no right to that space.
Yeah, I've had very little, I've been fortunate to have very few incidents with punting people in Sunday series.
Well, that's good. Being at the front, I think, always helps a little bit more because you're a little less panicked, and in general, obviously, you have a little bit more faith in people. Plus, you get to develop a little bit more of a
Understanding.
there we go, understanding the notebook on each driver, because when you're in the mid pack, it's probably the most interesting time you're gonna have because it's the most different faces that you're
I know
gonna have.
Rachel was telling me about that, what she's complaining about me racing under my dad and her not being able to tell who's who.
Well, it's because you don't race the same as your dad at all.
Yeah, well, he's a little more cautious, and he's always saying like, how are you able to do this in the Lambo when I'm not being able to do it?" I'm like, I just push the envelope. I push the car. I'm not like you have to. The way you drive the Lambo, you can't drive in like
It's for
like responding into the Lambo. You have to respond. You have to drive it
yeah. I
like
would
you
just
want to
I
drive
would
it.
describe that the Lamborghini is a car that very easily will start to drive you. So you have to have confidence that it's just going to work out. There's no logical reason to assume that it will. You just have to have faith in yourself and the racing gods, I guess, that it'll work.
Yeah, there's only I can't. I've been. I guess I'm used to driving the Lambo, but the way I find you could drive it quickly is if it rotates and it's very pointy, and you gotta use that rotation to. There's times where you can lift off and it won't spin, but there's times when you turn in or you brake too late, and then you try to turn in, the car is just still. You haven't slowed down enough, and the car just wants to rotate too much.
Mm-hmm. It's a
So
car that
it's
it's a car that rewards car control and really really punishes a lack of car control.
yeah, I guess that's why my dad is sort of a mixed bag on the Lambo. He's faster in it than the I think he was in the Aston, but
I can't recall him in the yeah
last season of threes, or not the
yeah
season that just
yeah I
finished.
know I think bizarrely I was never really competing with him in the Aston Martin, like he's just not near me. I don't, which probably states a really really good season, but also he definitely was having a hard time. And the Lambo has been. I don't know. The Lambo and him seems to be very inconsistent. There's been a couple of races where he's been in the mix, but there have been other races where he's definitively not in the mix. So
Yeah, it's sort of he likes to watch my ghost. Like wants me. He like begs me to do laps so he can chase my ghost and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, you're braking too much here. You have to turn in right here. And it's very the Lambo's. I enjoy the Lambo because it's not very understeery, which I find hard to drive fast when a car is understeered, like the Mercedes or the I guess the Aston. Which is ironic
front
because my
engine cars
fastest
for the
lap
most
at
part.
Bathurst is in the Aston.
Yeah, but there's a very difference from being able to be fast over the course of a lap versus a race. Um, I know there I mean, most of my fastest laps in ACC are actually in the Porsche, but I would not trust myself to drive it over the course of a race. It doesn't feel how I innately want a car to feel. Um,
It's a very sketchy car to drive if you don't know how to drive it.
mhm.
If you're trying to drive it like the Lambo, it doesn't work.
Well,
You,
it's a unique car because of course Porsche, rear engine or rear mid engine in some cases, is going to feel differently because of the weight distribution than any other car that you drive.
yeah, true.
Which is why I always tell the newbies not to do it, but they always do.
Yeah, I think it's it's not been pretty popular in the Sunday series. I guess this recent season, it's really only been the Muniz brother, like Castano and Arjona and Turcotte in the Porsche, I think, and then because we haven't had very many new people really. They've been kind of here and there, but I guess I was gonna take the Porsche in the next Sunday series, but then until Justin decided, oh, we're gonna do 2016 cars, and I was like, Oh, do not do the 2016 cars. I will not have a good time.
I'm interested how that'll go because I think he's putting a ballast on the Ferrari and the Mercedes, which
Yeah, he did
will
say
help
that
because I think those two would be a little bit too powerful. But
because they were competitive
it'll
in
be
with the
interesting.
newer cars.
Well, yeah, because they've only recently been replaced, of course, within and I mean Mercedes was winning titles as late as last year with the
Yeah,
2015 model.
didn't they
So
win the Endurance Cup?
I
No, it
think I
was a
think Triple
Lamborghini.
F did.
Yeah, Triple F won the. I think Triple F won the sprint and the endurance.
I think so, but Mercedes was in the mix, and Ferrari's always a bit weird because they've got nothing in the way of
Factory
factory
teams.
teams. Yeah, it's a very customer oriented thing where Ferrari just doesn't really give you a lot of um, support.
Really, in Europe, the only ones I can think of are AF Corsa and SMP Racing, and they're only kind of semi ones. They're not
Well,
full factory.
neither of them are full factory. It's just that SMP has such a large backing in Russia that allows them to compete on par with a factory team because they have the budget. And then AF Corsa, not really. AF Corsa tends to rely on pay drivers a lot to have their stuff running.
They have like one pro car I think they enter for like the 24 hours of Spa, but
Yeah, and it does well, but it's not like having a Porsche deal where you're access to Porsche factory drivers and you had the support, or an Audi deal, or a BMW, Mercedes,
yeah,
um,
Mercedes, Audi are two big ones I could think
Aston
of, and
Martin.
Porsche, of course.
Yeah.
Aston Martin's kind of a not as well known or doesn't do as well as the other ones seem.
The last couple of years, Aston Martin's been trying to really reestablish themselves as a top brand, and it's been working fairly well. They've been doing
Yeah,
okay.
our motorsport was doing pretty good.
Yeah, well, our motorsport's a quality operation. It's almost like SMP with Ferrari, where they're going to succeed regardless of what car they run.
Yeah, good team.
Mm-hmm. Then you got Garage 59 over there. Although Garage 59 is talking about going back to McLaren again, so I don't know what's going on with that.
I hope they do. I mean, there hasn't been enough
It,
McLarens in the grid.
yeah, it would be nice to have like a top team with McLaren again.
Yeah, the 60 at the 3 hours of Imola was doing really well. They were about in like top 10 that race.
Yeah.
Like the Irma group, the one that raced in the Bathurst 12 hour and almost won it.
They're a bit, I don't know, they're a bit weird in terms of like their performance goes kind of like this.
I didn't think they did any other races other than the 3 hours of Imola.
I think they do a couple other ones. I think they're active in British GT. I want to say,
No,
could be wrong.
they're an Australian. Like they were the Australian team. I think you're thinking of Optimum Motorsport.
No, I'm not thinking of Optimum. There's another team that's active.
Valve Motorsport, 2C's Motorsport.
Nah, it's not 2Cs. The 2C cars I love. I love.
Oh, I think you're thinking of the one RJN.
That could be it. That could be it.
They were going to go in the GT World Challenge, and then I guess with COVID, they kind of pulled back their program and decided to stick in British GT.
Mm-hmm. That's the Jetson Rocket team with the world's fastest gamer, Mr. Baldwin.
Yep. And Michael O'Brien, who happened to finish first and second in the British GT esports race today at Brands Hatch.
Indeed, it's interesting how the world of sim racing kind of intermingles with real life motorsports. It's the only video game avenue where that actually is a thing that happens. Of course.
Yeah, and recently, I guess I know you heard about this year integrating sort of esports results with like real life results, which people were complaining about, but I was sort of like, I don't know, kind of seems kind of cool.
I mean, it's interesting, but I'm not really sure if I would co-sign on that one. There's still a distinct difference, I guess. I don't know. It feels like crossing disciplines too much. It's like having a championship that does NASCAR and like Formula One. It'd be a bit weird.
Yeah, I'm not sure you can compare those.
The old Andretti racing game style.
I don't remember that.
That was
I guess
back
it
in
was
the
before my time.
that was back in the '90s. It was a game that where you could do a championship mode where you would race Indy cars and NASCARs in the same um, championship. It was it's kind of weird.
Kind of weird going from like
Had
a NASCAR
had
car to an
the
Indy car.
had the extended. I know all the Andretti's just because they're in that game. Some of them were not very good.
Still are. I think Michael Andretti, did he drive the McLaren in '93?
He did poorly, although
Yeah,
I mean, anytime you're dropped in as a rookie next to Ayrton Senna, that's not it's not going to be a positive outcome on
it's gonna
that,
make you
really.
look terrible regardless. But
Yeah. And then of course being replaced by Mika Hakkinen, which at the time probably didn't appreciate how good of a driver Hakkinen was, but of course became 98 and 99 world champ. Oh, we have another Higgs in the shot.
oh, that's another one there. He's petting a cat next to
I
me.
see. He has come for the cat. All right. Do you have anything else you want to bring up here? We've officially become the second longest Racers Corner at this point.
I guess that's a. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing yet, but
Well,
I guess we'll. I guess we'll see.
means we had stuff to talk about, so that's good. I'd say in general it's a positive. All right, so
Yeah, Dad didn't have a good. I didn't. Dad didn't have a really very good season. He had a few races where he just absolutely did not enjoy himself. Which I think they were, and coincidentally, they were both the wet races, but the first one was not technically his fault.
well, the wet races are always going to be a bit rougher. I had a really hard time in the wet race, the first wet race, but came back in column.
At Brands Hatch, it was.
Yeah, Brands Hatch was a lot of people had not a good day at Brands Hatch.
Yeah, my dad. It was kind of. I find it painfully ironic that Simeon tried to take advantage of the start and took out my dad. And my dad hit the wall and bounced off, and then hit Wayne. And I was
Yeah,
like,
your
"Oh,
your
the
your
teammates."
your dad's team did definitely have the most friendly fire incidents between the Cyberline crew. Shot themselves in the foot a couple of times over the course of the season.
And my dad decided it's a little too much work for him, so he's not going to continue in 3D speed. But that paves the way for a new and improved Higgs to join.
cocky, cocky boaster. Are you going to be joining up on a team, or are you going to be running a solo?
I don't know yet. We'll see if anybody wants to drive the Porsche or the Lamborghini or whatnot.
There'll always be some people that want to drive just about any car. I think if you push it, it'll come because I mean, like we had no Audis on the grid, and then I started to push the Audi big because I like the car and also just want to get like everything on the representation. And we ended up with not only the Audi Revolution team with myself, Paul Riccobeni, and Dixon Hurst, John Picha, but also the Santa Lock team with Miko Watt and Cole McRae.
Yeah, and I've in the 3D, not 3D, the next Sunday series. If I'm sort of iffy on doing it, but I think I am going to do it. But I changed to the
I think you should do
20.
it if you got time.
I changed to the 2016 Audi because I used to drive it before I drove the new Lambo, and I've driven the old Lambo, and I just do not like it. It feels like the new Audi, the new Lambo, but it doesn't have all the grip at the front end that the new one does.
I might join you in the old Audi. It depends on how the new rig goes, because of course, as everyone should know from my constant complaining, I really am kind of limited to how many series I can do, just because time in the rig ends up with a locked up knee and not being able to walk.
At my age, it's not an issue.
I mean, it's not even necessarily age because I've had bad knees since I was your age, so that doesn't really count. It's also just again the nature of the design of the DIY rig. Certain things weren't taken into account, and as a
It's always the issue with doing a DIY rig. It's not like you have something to base it off of. It's kind of like just doing it by eye or measuring or.
I mean, originally it wasn't necessarily a problem. It was that I wasn't thinking about where it would go long term. It was very, very sized for these pedals, this wheel, and nothing else really considered. And now that we're on the second pedal set since those pedals, it has led
Kind of
to
outgrowing.
yeah, it's a little more cramped now. There's definitely some problems with just the angle the leg is coming in. It's too narrow. It's not long enough. Basically, um, I can move the seat back, but if you move the seat back, then your arms are too stretched out to touching the wheel.
Yeah.
You have that problem, so that's kind of limited. And so as the guy who runs the Enduro series and the 3D Speed series, I've been focusing on those two. I might do the GT challenge if this change. I'll be missing. Well, no, actually, I won't be missing because we're a ways away from the start of the season.
Yeah, I think we're doing the next Sunday is the finale, which is the double points at Spa. Hopefully, I do decently well there because I have a chance to keep third in the championship.
Who are you behind in that championship, anyways?
Arjona and Burke.
Okay, the 3D Speed champion Andrew Burke.
I do have an opportunity to win it, provided they both do not finish.
That's fairly unlikely.
Yeah, that's what Justin was saying.
You need a fair amount of luck on that, I think, to pull that off.
Hopefully, they can take themselves out.
that'd be more like a mathematically alive, not actually alive. It's kind of like going into Kyle Almy with my team, like, hey guys, we're mathematically alive, but we ain't winning this.
Yeah, I kind of find it ironic that I hope for Burke to take himself out or take out Arjona as well, considering I just did a 4-hour enduro race with Burke at Laguna Seca in the Ferrari.
How'd you guys do?
Well, we started like 11th or 10th, and Burke started, well, Burke qualified, and then we both got a shot, and then he started the race, did an hour. Then I did.
Are you saying that Burke did not let you do the formation lap?
No, I told him to do the formation lap, and he did the first hour. Then he switched over to me. But when I pitted at the end of the second hour, we both forgot about a driver swap. So I didn't select him to change, and he forgot to remind me, or he didn't think of to remind me, and I forgot. So we both, and then we kind of stalled after the piss off because I started driving. I was like, and I'm like, oh wait, I forgot to switch you. So I did 2 hours straight, and then did a bit of a recovery drive, and then Burke was just not feeling it in the last stint. There's something off with, I guess, his tires, or maybe overcooked them a bit because he was just not as quick as he was in the first stint. And then we ended up finishing we went from like 11th to 4th. We could have had a chance for third, I think.
I mean, 11th to 4th is a solid run. I mean, I don't think anyone would be terribly disappointed with that.
No, we did get fortunate with a few disconnects. There was a fast Honda whose game crashed, or one of the guys who's like just ended up quitting. It was like, I think it was a total like 20 GT3 cars and like 7 GT4s, and one of them, we ended up with like 13 to 15 GT3 cars at the end, just come from like disconnects and people that just rage quit. But it was kind of fun. It was my first time actually driving the new Ferrari seriously in a race.
Your thoughts and impressions on the new Ferrari?
His setup was good, but I could actually feel the car because with some other tracks, the Ferraris had really, really light force feedback, and it felt like I could almost not feel the car. And if you turn like the wheel, I don't know if it was with the new one or old one, but I know for the old one, it was kind of like if you turned it far enough, it felt like the force feedback just like you had nothing. It was just with that car. It was really weird. So I hated it. But his setup was overall not bad. And I ended up doing like a 23.8. 23. I think it was it was a low 23 that I managed to do in the race with that car. Which I'd say is pretty good for the Uniseca.
It's better than anything I'm going to do.
It's certainly not going to touch my Porsche time of like 122 something. And
I
yeah,
mean, yeah, but the Porsche is super strong around Laguna Seca. Very,
even
very,
after
very
its
strong.
nerf.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the nerf was just making it more realistic, so there's that.
I did drive it before the nerf, and it was good at Laguna and Nurburgring for sure. I did well in the tier 2 race with RWB ESR
Hmm.
a few months ago.
And then I got you promoted to tier 1.
Yeah, I was kind of like, I'm competing for wins, and now I'm competing for last place. But
Yeah,
overall, didn't
well,
do very well.
yeah, well, there were some complaints from some drivers about people both in tier 2 and tier 3 just not really belonging, and like some people in tier 1 going, "Why am I here?"
Yeah, I think the reason why I was in tier 2 is because I don't really did like the 6 lap minimum, and I didn't really care about my pace at all.
Yeah, no, we could tell because I was breaking down some stats for them. Eventually going like, all right, so here's the fastest lap for like these 5 drivers. This is the pace. Their pace is terrible. They fucked up a lap and it counted. Like that's how that works.
Yeah, I fucked up a lap and it counted. And I was like, okay, I have it. At least I did got my laps in, and I'm good for here. But I felt like top finish was gonna be third, but then I got taken out by Christopher Streppin in the GT4 at Paul Ricard, which
Mm.
brought me down to fourth place. And it was like, and I was literally like messaging him like, I was third,
It's never great when you get taken out by lap traffic.
and somebody that you actually know and like you talk to.
Mm.
A stranger is one thing, but your friend is kind of like you
It
kind of want
does.
to strangle them at the same time.
It does hurt a little bit more when it's a teammate or a long-standing friendly foe or someone you've given like some effort into trying to help out with their abilities. Um,
I have a
versus yeah,
curse.
the new guy or a random that you've not raced before or don't see a lot of.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So it feels a little bit more personal.
Yeah, he did apologize after the race. I did report it, which in the time I was kind of like more angry. But if I was on the outside and I had an overlap, it was the corner after the straight. Not it was the corner after the straight. You know, the two right hand turns.
Yep, I got you.
The second one is like a really long late apex. And I was on the outside and he was on the inside, and it looked like he kind of tried to carry more speed than he could into there and took me and kind of spun me out. I
Mm.
was angry at the time when I reported it.
I mean, reporting is not necessarily a bad thing. I've been having this conversation with a couple of people, most notably Dave Nelson refusing to report me at Kyle Almy. Um, if somebody does something wrong on the track, it should go to the stewards, and it
It was
should.
probably the series admin and like taking out the series admin that he didn't want to report himself.
Oh well, I took him out, so I mean, it's
Or you,
yeah,
yes.
and I mean, I told him that it was definitely not his fault. The worst thing he was gonna get is maybe Jack talking about self preservation. So sort of you didn't do anything wrong here, but you could have not died, basically.
That's one thing I noticed that some people struggle to do, or they refuse to do, so the other guy gets a penalty. They purposely do not avoid the contact if they see it coming, just so the other guy gets a penalty.
I don't think anybody purposely does it because, I mean, probably the most important thing in ESR is we get a remarkably low number of actual reports. Um, I know that like from the WTCR series we're running on Sundays, or Saturdays, there's like no reports. Every time I pop on with Jack to do the video, he's like, "So we got lap 1." I'm like, "Oh, no reports, no reports." Okay, we'll do
All
lap
right.
1.
Yeah,
um,
lap one's always feed like that.
Yeah, so there's definitely a little bit of there's a friendly atmosphere to ESR where there's not a lot of reports, but at the same time that does mean that um, you're not going to fix what's going on. Um, I mean, drivers get better over time, but their fundamental understanding of what they should do in certain racing situations will probably stay the same unless there is a call from God moment, sort of thing about not doing things appropriately.
Yeah, it makes
And
sense.
that's what the stewarding is there for. It's not about getting penalties. The penalties are there to improve and make you think about things in a more, in some cases correct, and in other cases just more correct way. No, not correct way, full way, deeper understanding.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So we've turned this into a slight pulpit about stewarding at the end here. So
Yeah, unfortunately.
do you have anything else you want to bring up to kind of summarize this whole thing? You can make your pitch for like teammates in the Sunday or the 3D Speed series, whatever you want to do. Bring it on home.
For Sunday, the next season of Sundays, I am teamed up with Sean Kenny in the Audi because he's struggled with the Mercedes. Either had bad luck or taken somebody out.
I think it's mostly just bad luck for him, to be honest.
I think his best qualifying was.
He is the king of wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, for sure. He was pretty strong with the Lambo when he first started ACC, or not pretty strong, but that was the only car that could actually get around the track. He told me, so he picked last season at 3D, or not 3D, it was Sunday series. And then this season he tried the Mercedes out because I guess I've wanted to try the Mercedes because I see lots of other people doing it and are strong in it, but I just cannot be that quick in it. But yeah, and then what else can I add in at the end here? I'm still testing if I want to do the Porsche or the Lambo for 3D speed. If I don't feel comfortable enough, but I do tend to rely on the Coach Dave setups more for the Lambo just because I'm lazy and I don't do testing or anything to make myself get faster, but or better or improve the setup. So if I choose the Porsche, I'll probably be buying those setups just because I don't trust myself to manage the Porsche enough. Because I've accepted that there's people who know more than me about it and have driven it and stuff. So hopefully, if I end up choosing that, that's my default, which are good. What else can I add in? I do. Justin did mention for the next Sunday series he's adding like a qualifying race, which it's a different idea because when he was before he told everyone he was talking to me about stuff and he didn't tell me what was going on and the way he was making it sound was going to be something that I would have hated. So I told him, I don't know what you're doing, but from the sounds of it, it's going to be something I don't enjoy or I'm not going to like. But a qualifying race it's something different for sure. Which I think it'll be a little interesting because I think he mentioned
it can bring in some variable grids, which would be nice. You might get a rare chance someone to snatch a victory that wouldn't have been there otherwise, which is nice. So
yeah, I can see that,
and it gives it a little bit of flavor.
I think he said that when the finishing order of the race, he's gonna do like the qualifying race. He's gonna get people. He's gonna have like a 5-minute warm up before the actual race, or like something like that, and then he's gonna kind of set the grid manually, like where people finished. Just because I'm not sure ACC allows a qualifying race.
I am not sure. I've not tried a lot of 2-race format stuff with ACC, so I don't know how it handles it because
I know you can do race 1 and 2.
With no reverse grid in play, it's always been a bit kind of, I don't know, a little bit pointless to do the 2 races, but if you can do a qualifying race, it can work. Also, I've been mostly running a series where we can't go any later, otherwise people complain.
Yeah, makes sense. And then you can't really start early enough, then people complain that it's too early that they can't make it, or...
Yeah, it comes up every feedback form. Is there any chance we could do a longer race? No. Is there any chance we could start later? No.
You kind of got to do in the middle, because you got to You can't please everyone, but you gotta try to please as many people as you can.
Exactly. We make everyone miserable.
Yeah, that's for sure.
All right, so looking forward to seeing you on the 3D speed grid, trying to bring back that respect on the Higgs name after a pair of lackluster seasons by your dad. So,
Don't tell him that. He's gonna watch this probably.
well, I mean, he'll know. I mean, it's not like my opinions are unknown. I do all the commentary. So looking forward to seeing you on the grid, competing probably for the championship.
Hopefully.
Depends on who comes back. Depends on if Paul Riccobeni returns to form. That's going to be the big question in 3D speed.
Come on, Paul. Don't be that guy.
I mean,
Return.
He finished behind me this season. That's
Really? He's had that bad of a season?
it's not a good luck. Yeah, well, you had 3 DNFs, I think. So.
He DNF'd at
Kyle Almy, Brands Hatch. He didn't DNF at Laguna Seca, but he did have like an accident that put him, I think, all out of the top 10. So
yeah.
Rough season for him. Rough season. So hopefully he returns, and then of course we got reigning champion Andrew Burke, Chris Johnston in the mix. That's kind of the upper crust. I don't know. We'll see if Zach Martin keeps improving, because if he keeps getting better, he's going to be a threat.
Hopefully, Will Murrah returns.
Well, Murrah's around. He's just Murrah's just always on a razor's edge, and over the course of a season, that bites him a couple of times. Tends to take him out of championship contending.
Yeah, I've noticed he gets a few drive-throughs like me.
Not even drive-throughs, but like just a spin for pushing too hard, or like when you're always running qualifying laps and you're on that razor's edge, even when you don't need to be. A small error becomes a big error and throws things away.
Yeah, that's my curse in the Sunday series.
Yeah, it's called take a little off when you're in the lead there, Higgs. Take a little off.
Hey, I did not crash on the sausage curb at Kyalami. I was too afraid of it, so I ran too wide, and then the car spun and hit the inside wall.
As stunning as it is, I've never been bitten by that damn curve. I've jinxed it now. Next time we're at Kyalami, it's gonna happen. But
I've hit it so many times in past races, but I crashed at 130R at Suzuka because I tried to use too much of the track, and I touched the grass on the right-hand side just as I turned in, so it just upset the car enough for it to rotate too much. And then I caught it once, it snapped again, so I caught it again, but then I went straight into the wall head first.
Yeah, that's not a good way to end your race.
And I had that race in the bag basically at like a 5.5 second lead at the time. And then
that cost you.
Yeah. I hope I don't think I'm gonna win Spa because I'm not that good at that track, or I'm not that quick in the Lambo. But you never know. Arjona seems to be quick in qualifying, but then his race pace is sort of a little slower.
Oh, everyone's race pace is a little bit slower.
I did hit a 2:01.6 in the race, which my 2-minute 5 in qualifying. I did not breathe for the last half of that lap. And that was 0.6 faster than my qualifying lap at Spa or Suzuka last season. Because my qualifying lap was a 2:01.1 last season, and this season is 2-minute 5. And my dad goes, "How'd you manage to do that?" And I was like, "Well, I almost crashed at the first Degner. Like I took too much of the curve, so I had to kind of do like this to get the car going straight. And I was still going straight, so I was like, okay, I'll keep going with this lap."
I mean, at least your dad is a supportive aspect to your racing, whereas the only other person who can comment on a parent being president is Rochelle when her dad kicked her chair to screw her up.
My dad would flip if I did that to him. Where I sit right now, it's like almost right above the racing sim, and I can hear him through the vents if he crashes or gets taken out in iRacing or something. So I can always tell how his race is going, whether or not I hear, yelling or raging from down the basement. So
You got a rager in the house. Fun. All right.
anyway,
We're going to finish it up there. So thanks for taking time to do this, Mr. Higgs. If you want to, I'm addressing the audience now. If you want to be on the Racers Corner, let me know and we can make an appointment. I'm trying to pump one of these out a week, although it's been hard to keep up with. Been really busy lately, and this week is a little bit lesser because I think we've only got one commentary gig, which is nice.
you do lose track of time as you get older.
It's not an age thing. It's more stuff to do. I'm not that old.
What?
Don't let the lack of hair fool you. I'm not that old.
Well, then my dad lied to me. He said you're 1 year away from a cane.
Oh, well, I mean, maybe, but that's not an age thing. I mean, again, I've had bad knees and a bad back since I was 16, so.
Tried a chiropractor.
Chiropractors won't do anything for me. Basically, in my lower back, there's 4 vertebrae that are fused together, and every chiropractor I go to is like,
I can't do anything about that.
yeah, there's not really much we can do about that. It's one of those things where it's like it's doing just little enough that they don't want to surgically repair it for the risks, but it's also enough that it screws everything up. And then I had my first knee surgery when I was 16. So
Yeah, because my friend had a knee surgery young too because of an injury in baseball.
mine was football, of course.
Yeah, I was never into football. Never been a big kid, so football was off the table.
All right.
Which is ironic because I played hockey, but
Hockey's a little bit less size intensive though.
Yeah.
Football really is kind of that one where it's you need to be a certain size to really be considered. And being as big as I was in high school, because I was like as big as I am now in high school, and the coach was my gym teacher and was like, "You really need to come out for the team. You really need to do that."
He did that sort of thing.
I didn't come out as a freshman, and then he got me to come out as a sophomore. I guess would be. I've never really It's freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. I think there we go.
I never called it that.
I didn't either. It was grade 9, grade 10, grade 11, grade 12, grade 13. That's what it was.
Oh, you were in grade 13?
We didn't have grade 13, but I did a victory lap because I enrolled in the Cisco Communications program in grade 12. You're supposed to enroll in grade 11, but I did it in grade 12. And really, I had all the credits to graduate but one after grade 12. And even that was intentional. I dropped grade 12 English knowing that, like, if I didn't have a credit that I needed, I wasn't going to graduate because I would graduate, but I wouldn't go to class because you can't take just one class and go to high school. You need at least 2.
Yeah.
So, so I dropped out of grade 12 English and was like, all right, we'll do grade 12 English in the grade 13. There we go.
Anyway.
So there was that. Anyways, thanks for joining us, Little Higgs. Welcome to the 3D Speed Group. And if you want to join Little Higgs in the Porsche or the Lamborghini, send him a line over on the Discord and I don't know, do it. He's a solid mentor for those who are looking for someone to help them out and become a little bit quicker. And he's obviously going to be, I think, a figurehead or a player in the championship hunt. So if you're looking for a team's title or anything like that, it's a good pickup. He's a platinum driver. It is what it is.
Isn't there a 3D thing where you can't have like a certain number of drivers for a team, or you need to have like, if you have a platinum, you need like a silver or something?
You have a maximum number of points that the team can have, and each driving level costs points. So the platinums cost the most. You could have two. You could have 2 platinums on a team, but you would have to take a bronze driver to make up for it.
What if you didn't take 3 drivers? Is that just not possible, or
you get more points as you go? So a 2-man team can have 6 points, which is 2 gold drivers. A 3-man team can have 8 points, which Actually, I guess there is no way for 2 platinums to work. So there you go. Which
Noted.
was probably intentional on my part, and I just forgot about it.
I can
So
understand. I
eight,
love.
eight, 8 points for a 3 car team, and then 9 points for a 4 car team, and a 4 car team must have a bronze driver to compete. So
Noted.
even though mathematically you could do 4 silvers on a team, you need to take a bronze. Mostly because we don't want 4 silvers on a team. Well, no, I mean the teams are supposed to be able to improve. So you're supposed to have drivers of all levels to sort of learn from each other. Whereas all silvers will learn some, but there's no team leader, there's no educator, no mentor in that scenario.
Yeah, nobody to help you get up to speed. It's kind of like,
Exactly.
how do we all get faster?
It's there for a team's championship and something else to compete with, but it's also there to make everyone better, and it's been working. I think every driver who's been a member of a team has left the season better than they started, which is good.
Yeah, it's always. I've noticed. My dad's been like, I always bug my dad when he races in three, or when he races 3 feet, like, oh, Magus is beating you, or hey, you gotta get fast in race speed. And then my dad goes, Magus practices like all the time. Like, then why don't you?
I don't actually. I practice as much as I can, but again, when your knee locks up after a while in the rig, you at some point have to roll out of the rig and crawl from the room.
That's not a good look.
My roommates know when I've been racing because I come out of the room either literally crawling or like audibly my knee is clicking as I walk towards the kitchen.
Yeah, that's an issue.
So there is that. Anyways, I've tried to sign off a couple times. We're signing off this time.
All right, let's do it.